All right, that was Michael Jackson. They don't care about us. I thought it was the other version, but it still hit the point that they don't care about us. So it is now 58 minutes after the hour, and we have Joseph leaving the Impact Hour coming in a little early this morning. So those of you who are tuning in, some will tune in, but if not, don't worry. We have everything ready for you later on at 7:30 this morning. So Joseph called me last night. He has other obligation he needs to do. And so he asked, what time do I get up? I said 5. So we agree upon for 6 o'clock this morning, which is uh, not early for me, early for others, but we definitely will have this all together. Good morning, Mr. Joseph. Good morning, Joseph Lee. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good this morning, Ron. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm not tired. To tell you the truth, I'm not tired at all. I'm doing good. When you contact me yesterday, I don't know if you did, but I went on this site called gunviolence.org, and I got every shooting that took place in Texas to date. But the only thing it did not cover is that nut down in Brownsville that ran over and killed what, 9 people?
8 people.
8 people in Brownsville. That's the only that they it's not considered a mass shooting. So, but we know that's just it was a weapon. The car was a weapon, regardless. So, I'm gonna leave it at that because normally I have a mouthful for you early in the morning. I mean, to kick things to you, but this is too serious today. What's going on? It just it's way too serious.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's right. It is very serious. I had my brother, my operations manager, Craig Washington, that's listening up in Michigan. So shout out to everybody up in Michigan, to Craig, and he called me right before I called you last night and said, man, or actually I called him and he was like, talked to him and he said, man, you called it last week and been calling it in terms of what's going on and what's going to happen if we don't get ahead of our gun issue here in this country. So and I just think it shows. We started the show about I don't know, maybe it's been about a year ago or so now. We
yeah,
started with about 700 listeners. Now we're up to over 10,000 listeners right now. And just want to give a shout out to all the listeners, San Antonio, LA, Zion, Illinois, North Carolina, Atlanta, New York, Detroit, Dallas, Church, Texas, and the international listeners. We got listeners in Nigeria, Ethiopia, UK, Bolivia, Ghana, India, New Zealand, Taiwan, Zimbabwe, UK, Poland, Puerto Rico, Singapore, Japan, which I'll see you soon, and Switzerland, right?
yeah.
So this is, what we've been talking about, politics, with gun violence and what's facing our society. I think I can't really end it or start it with a statistic. We're going to Allen, Texas, but before I get in that, I just want to leave with this point. We've said it last week that our number one resource is our children. The number one threat to children here in the United States now is gun violence. We can stop the show right there. Right. We can stop the show right there and just focus on that point. The number one threat to children, the number one killer of children now in the United States, it's not disease, it's not, some random situation, it's gun violence. So with that being said, we go to Allen, Texas, and we have children yet again killed by what we've been talking about in the show is greed, fear, and phobia. And I broke down, I know phobia is a type of fear, but I separated that for a second, right? But if you look at it, this gentleman, what was his name? Garcia, first name, Mauricio. Don't really want to give his memory too much of a shine, but I just think we need to put it in context. He actually killed children and had on this right-wing death squad paraphernalia on a bulletproof vest. And what I just want to highlight is I don't know where they're getting off that they're these soldiers. are there these warriors when they're basically cowards with military grade weapons? See, soldiers, I'm a veteran, so I think I can speak to it a little bit. We're trained to crawl towards gunfire being shot over our head or to run towards gunfire, not to just pull out a weapon and randomly slaughter innocent kids, adults just shopping, going to church. You know, there's casualties of war, obviously, but we're there usually fighting other armed personnel in a conflict. So I want to dispel to any, if there are some right-wing folks who listen to the show, extremists, both sides of both sides of it. Let's just call you what you are. You're terrorists. That's what you are. Whatever your psychological issue is, it gets you to think. And we'll get into it a little bit further about Mr. Mauricio Garcia, because it's not a new thing. We have dissected the psychological profile, even on this show, numerous times, about the type of person that does these type of things in different situations. But the one thing you're not is a hero in any way, shape, or form, nor is your legacy going to be remembered as trying to do anything positive or changing the course of the country for some traditional sense of returning back to anything good. What you're doing is connecting yourself to the lineage of disgusting parts of humanity, the cancers of humanity. That's what you become when you do this type of stuff. And if you want to be that person, and that's what I'm seeing, we're seeing more people adhering to this, then we're going to have to, as I said on the last show, start proactively seeking these folks out like we do Al-Qaeda or any other terrorist organization, the Klan, neo-Nazis, any of them, Proud Boys, any of these guys. And I think the Proud Boys got their message pretty clear with the charges of sedition and conspiracy. And it's no surprise that, after they got that charge, then you have this person putting on his paraphernalia, talking about he's a part of the, appointed himself to the right-wing death squad. And looking at his psychological profile, he has wrestling with social issues. He belonged to another organization that talks about how men are rejected by women. So remember that social misfit we were talking about last week?
Yeah.
There's that box checked. Then we've got the right-wing extremists. We talk about greed, fear, and phobia. Well, fear and phobia, I think this falls into, because he's, if this right-wing extremist feels that, he's buying into white supremacy, which is interesting because his last name was Garcia. Mauricio Garcia. Now, I don't know. That doesn't sound like too much of a Caucasian name to me, but it just shows that racism and this sickness and how people see themselves and the delusional sense that people get. And we have to deal with this, because like we said, mental illness, and actually these guns are legally purchased. Now, if you go to his history, he had enlisted into the Army, but he didn't make it. He got kicked out of the military before he could complete basic training. So he didn't even make it into the military. So then you got the folks that, can't get what they want and don't have the social skills, right? We checked that box. We talked about that last time. So we're starting to see a psychological profile of people time and time and time and time again. We're now over 200 mass shootings just this year in the United States. And we still have legislators that aren't fit to walk into the Capitol building or hold any job or office at this point. If you aren't putting forward meaningful legislation to stop gun violence, you have no business in a suit, dress, whatever you're wearing, and going into Congress or the Senate. You have no purpose in that house. If you cannot understand that we are under attack. And you picked the perfect song. They don't really care about us because that action is what they say. And I don't care what they're talking about. And I'm going to excuse my French. To hell with the debt ceiling. We got to stop killing our kids. These social misfits and lunatics that are out here on the street, the community is going to, village is going to have to identify these folks and allow the police to go in proactively and strip them of these military grade weapons and this ammo. And look, there's ways you can do it. I'm not a legislator. I don't get paid for that. I get paid to go deal with the aftermath. And that's what I'm doing today. I can't go into details, but this is another gun violence situation that I have to go out to at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I should show you the stack. Since I've been here for 7 years, see if I can find my stack of, and this isn't even a conclusive list, but I have a stack of cases over this big in 7 years that I've had to go to because of gun violence, most of them. And the traumatic effects and the ripples, you know, because you think about it, all the people that were killed in Allen, Texas, it's a ripple effect. They have families, they have friends, they have places of employment. They're all affected by this horrible tragedy. There's a young man now that doesn't have a brother, a mother, and a father. He's going to be scarred for the rest of his life, before his life even began.
Yeah.
Really. Because some lunatic decided that he wants to buy into some ridiculous cause and take the lives of innocent people. And shout out to the hero, the real hero, the law enforcement officer that attacked and took the life of this lunatic before he could kill anybody else. That's where we are in this country. From all over the world, all of my listeners, we need to inundate and saturate the offices with letters and show up at the ballot box to get these fools out of office if they cannot put forth some meaningful legislation. So, for example, when you sell a gun, we have these red flag laws that are weak, and obviously everybody, if you listen to the news bites, they say, well, they purchased a gun legally. Well, how can we quickly stop it? Well, I'll give you a little hint. How don't we why don't we fine, these businesses that sell these firearms at least $500,000 per person that's killed in an active shooter situation? If you sell or give somebody a weapon and that weapon results in the death of another person, or, you know, what let's look at manslaughter. What is it? It's the unintentional taking of life of another person. Well, at this point, we know what the weapon of choice is. It's an AR, a semi-automatic weapon that's taking the lives of our kids and other adults that are innocent, just trying to live in this society. So if you are profiting off of the lives being taken, then you are responsible, aren't you? Because the person that's coming to purchase the weapon could be mentally unstable. I know the argument is you don't know that. You don't know if they're mentally unstable. But that's the point. You don't know that they're mentally unstable. So maybe find something else to sell right now. I know that's a hard thing because money is so important. But is it more important than our kids? Is it more important than our safety of our children? Is it more important than our freedom to go out and enjoy shopping at the mall, to go to Walmart, to go to church? That's the question we're going to have to get to. And if it's so that important, then you should be able to deal with a fine of $500,000 per person. And I know that most businesses can't sustain something like that. And that's the point. We're going to have to do something drastic to deal with something that's drastically happening in our society. And that's just how it's going to have to go. Anything else is foolishness and delusional thought processes. And our politicians are bought and sold. Bought and sold. That's
So
why they can't stand up and say anything about the NRA, or they can't stand up and do anything. And they're so confused that it's a mental health issue. Look, that argument, I want to debunk that right now. I'm a therapist. I'm an LPC in multiple states. I see clients all around the world. And I'm going to tell you this right now. That's bullshit. Okay? There's mental health issues going on all around the world. The common denominator that's causing the death is not just the mental health, it's the guns, because that's the thing that's not accessible around the world. We have the same issues. Suicidal ideation is not just a United States phenomenon. Homicidal ideation is just not a phenomenon. I'm on my way to a country that I have to leave my guns behind because they're smart enough to know and look at the culture in Japan. Look at the culture. The community raises the children. Can you imagine 5 or 6 year old children being able to go to the store on their own? And the whole community watches those children to make sure that they get there safe and do what they need to do to get back home. Can you imagine a society like that? Do you know back in the 70s, Japan actually came over and studied our school system? They're not studying it now.
yeah.
Maybe we need to study theirs. Understand what we lost. Understand that they figured out that, what society needs in it is not military grade weapons when we have a mental health crisis in this country. Yes, there is a mental health crisis in this country, but we're arming the lunatics. And, lack of action is an action at this point. Now, people keep talking about this civil war, this soft civil war. It's going on, but not in the way that they are proposing it to go on. It's going on because we've got so many people armed, so many mentally ill people, and so many mixed messages being sent out to our population. And what's the end goal? To say that Biden's an ineffective president? And I think I saw a poll on, let me make sure I call the right place out. I think it was ABC News that said, I'm reading this exact quote, why some in a new poll still want Trump in 2024, even if he's criminally charged. Those folks that are saying they still want Trump in 2024, what are you really saying? What are you really saying? We know his stance on guns. He doesn't really say much, right? So if you don't say much, you're part of that problem. You already know his stance on women. Part of the problem, and I want to underline this, is what happened to our moral compass. We got to start there. With all the things that Trump has done, he's the wrong fit for the problems that face our country. Plus, he's mentally ill. Seriously mentally ill. There's a lot of things in that DSM that we can diagnose him with. I think his sister-in-law, or his who was it? His niece. She's an LPC just like me, and she diagnosed him with some things.
Yes, she did.
And all of those things are valid. It's crazy that if Trump was in Texas, a resident of Texas, he could be treated for those things that he was diagnosed with. Yet some people feel that he's capable and competent to run the country. Pathological liars are not fit to run a country. people with serious racist ties. His father was in the Klan. And he's learned the lessons of his father very well. Coded speech. When he talks about people in a group that are in a group with neo-Nazis, and he says, oh, there's some good people in there. If you're standing with neo-Nazis, there's nothing good about you. That's not company you want to stand with. You need to evaluate. There's something wrong with your thought process if you're standing with those folks. Birds of a feather.
Locked together.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable standing with neo-Nazis, and I know people are going to say Kanye West has lost his mind.
Yeah.
If you don't know that by now, there's something wrong with you. I used to love Kanye's music. Actually, I still think he's a phenomenal artist mentally, but you know what? We already know that artists, geniuses, can also be crazy. Is that a something I have to go through and establish how many great artists that are great musically or whatever, but are still completely off the rails mentally? I think he even said it best himself. You know, you can look it up. He said, you know, has everybody ever thought that the same place that this great music comes from is the same place mental illness comes from? That was pretty deep.
Yeah.
But that shows how much of a genius he is. Narcissists. A complete narcissist, and this is my wife. I figured out how to see this, right? So my wife put a comment on here. True, narcissism. You cannot have a president that is a complete narcissist. The boldness to say that, yeah, stars, we can exhibit, misogynistic behavior, and that's gone on for millions of years. I think he said.
Oh yeah, he did.
Let me tell you something. I got a daughter, and I don't care if you're a star. I don't care who you are. You touch my daughter, I want to touch you, but it ain't gonna be in the same way. It's not gonna be in the same way. Okay? And I don't care how much money you got. I don't care who you are. Listen, I made it through basic training. Okay? I was a soldier. Don't play around with everybody's kids. I don't care who you are. That's why you better be careful. We're playing with some dangerous stuff. See, a person in that position of power sending out those type of messages sends messages to other people without power saying that, oh, okay, yeah, I'm a star in my own mind, so I can treat women any type of way. Don't get your boys hurt.
Yep.
Don't get your boys hurt. That's all I'm gonna say. So if you're a man and you got a daughter, you already know what I'm saying. If you a real man, meaning that you care about your family and you would do what you're designed to do, which is protect your daughter and your family, your wife. If you're designed and cut like me, then yeah, you know what you're gonna do. If somebody put their hands on your child, and they're always your child.
Yeah.
Even when they grow up. So somebody like Trump to sit there and say that, oh, I can put I don't even want to repeat what he said, but he's basically, what he's talking about is grabbing a certain woman's area and think there's something he can do. And so he now has to pay $5 million to, what's her name, Carol?
E. Jean.
Yeah, E. Jean.
Yeah, E. Jean Carroll.
Yeah, E. Jean Carroll. $5 million for just basically being an idiot. He doesn't even feel that he has to show up. Now, here's the crazy part, right? You got a person who's supposed to be running for office, but he doesn't even feel like he has to show up to court. He didn't even testify. Probably good that he didn't testify. The result would have probably been the same.
Or worse.
Or worse.
Yeah.
Right? But look at the treatment that this guy is getting. He gets to have a police motorcade to show up in New York and then fly back to Mar-a-Lago after he's facing a 34-count felony charges. Who else gets to do that? See, if justice is fair and equal, then we need to apply that to even our politicians. In fact, they even more so need to be treated that way. because to reach that level, you're supposed to have some moral fiber and be an example. But what happened to that? Now it's completely backwards because of people that, according to this poll by ABC, says, now this is the exact quote from 2 hours ago. He might be a bad person, but he's a good president, one said. You are the weakest link. If that's your mindset, you are the weakest link in this country.
And that's who he's targeting. Remember,
And
remember,
that's
remember what he said? He said,
yeah.
I love the what do you say, the dumb and educated or something like that. That aspect, he said that. I don't get it. Those are the weakest links, and those ones he could tap into, and those are the lone wolves that's going out there doing all this shooting and stuff.
Well, I don't think we can call them lone wolves now. They now have equated the pack that are acting individually, and when they decide to go off and they get fully charged in their foolishness, that they want to go off on that. So just from a strategic standpoint, listen, we've got to start tracking these weapons a lot better. Right now, private vendors can sell, private sales can happen to firearms, not just the distributors. So they've got it. Listen, we've got a lot of access to these firearms. We've got to get ahead of that. We've got to really examine that Second Amendment and call it what it is. It needs to be adjusted because right now it's the way it's written is a cancer on our society.
Yes. So I get this up.
And some people have said that if today the Second Amendment was if the Constitution was to be written, the Second Amendment wouldn't even exist.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But at the same time, you know, I get it. You know, there is this fear of government and there is this fear of tyranny and all that type of stuff. As an African-American male, of course I understand that. Right.
Yeah.
But we aren't the ones necessarily fighting it. And now I want to talk about just these mass shootings. We got shootings going on in our communities. Look at places like Chicago. Look at any urban centers where we got gun violence. We have to address that too. Different situation, similar mindset, but we got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And don't tell me we can't deal with it. Don't tell me we can't deal with it. We can.
We can.
We're a country just like all these other countries. Yeah. And we just have to figure out the right laws, the right combination, the right access issues, and we can deal with it. We're going to have to, because soon we're not going to be able to do anything. You know, you go to the shop, you go to shopping, it's in the back of your mind. You send your kids to school, it's in the back of your mind. You go to church, it's in the back of your mind. Had a beautiful event down here in San Antonio, Fiesta. Me and my brother were down there. We felt like we were Starsky and Hutch down there, you know, having can't enjoy anything. You know, we back there, you know, looking to see who moving, who's, you know, where something might pop off. You know what I'm saying? So we got to protect our family.
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because I said something to the listeners that back then when alcohol abuse is going on, they came up with a designated driver. Okay. I call myself the watcher because when I was at election this past Saturday, I kept on looking out the window. The lady said, "What you looking for?" I said, "Hopefully I don't find it." But I was just looking what was going on out there because now you have to have designated watchers. And I'm gonna share a screen with you, Joseph. I'm gonna share this screen with you.
Come on.
Can you see that screen?
Yeah, I see some data. Yeah.
Okay, this is all the shootings we had in Texas. And there's a shooting each month. This shows everything that happened from January 6th that happened in Dallas all the way up to Allen, Texas.
Wow.
That is ridiculous of the shootings we have in one. And like we got off the show last week and we saying, I wonder how long it's going to be. It didn't take long. It didn't take long at all for this to happen. So this chart, I mean, this graph right here, it tells you it's out of control.
This is just, and see the crazy part, Ron, this is just in Texas.
Yeah. Oh, I got the list for all of them. If I click this right
Well, hold
here,
on. Let's look at this one right here, though. This is just in Texas. And
yeah,
look at all these numbers of people injured and killed going all the way back since January. I think January 6th, right?
yeah, uh-huh.
Look at those numbers. And we talk about a civil war going on. We got a civil war going on with just common sense. I don't know how you could be a politician and sit and see numbers like this here in Texas and still think that you are doing your job as a governor, a senator, whatever. You're fired.
Yeah.
You're fired. There's nothing you can say to validate these numbers. Nothing. So what I don't know what else that's just Texas. So what else we got for the rest of the country?
Oh, if I just click this tab right here and go, if I got it. If I click all, there
My
we
God.
go. There we go. This is since January of this year. You see, there's March. It's ridiculous. It's just this is every state. You know what? One thing that I wanted to know with all these states, I have one state in mind, and I'm gonna see if they're on here. Yep, Hawaii did have a shooting. What about Alaska? Alaska so far looks like the only state that did not have a shooting at all this year. Alaska. Hawaii had one.
Wow. You
So
know, put those the national one back up there again and just let that sink in. And where'd you get this? Where'd you pull this information from?
I pulled it off gunviolence.org.
Okay. I think the listeners should know that. If you want a reason to contact your local politicians, national politicians, here you go. Here's the data. Here's where they have failed. And we need to hold them accountable for this not continuing to happen in your state, in your local area. That's what it's going to take. And possibly some other things. You know, we gotta start hitting them where it hurts financially. And each one of those states that have been shown multiple times, you know, we need to start boycotting some stuff. We need to start using all the tools in the tool shed to get the attention of these politicians. So since it's greed, fear, and phobia, maybe we need to start pulling on the purse strings.
Yeah.
To get some attention. And then show up at the ballot box. And if you don't start putting some meaningful legislation out there, you got to go. I mean, it's right there in black and white for you. It's not like just Ron and Joseph here talking about the issues. We're hitting you with the facts, talking about the mental health issues. I just said you can't just put it on a mental health issue. You got to deal with the access to military grade weapons and mental illness. But tell you what, we already know that we can't solve all the mental health issues overnight. But the quickest thing we can do is address the gun issues.
Yes.
The sale and distribution we can deal with. And then we can also, as a community, start exposing folks that have all these arsenals of weapons that are out there. You know, and I think, you know, and my wife brings up another good point, you know, here, term limits.
Yeah. I'm
You
gonna
know,
share a lot of
got,
I'm gonna show the graph again because for some reason they wasn't able to see the list. So I put it back there on top of us. But yeah, on term limits, you're right about that.
yeah, we got these folks sitting here that know that they can't be let go because they're just sitting there, you know, without the possibility of being, you know, if they get the same lunatic that's in office, and that's to me, mental illness is now, you know, it's got to be. Well, I don't know. It's a choice. I don't think some of these folks are mentally ill. I just think they're diabolical. at the highest level in government. They know what's going on. They're choosing not to do it because they're getting their pockets padded.
Yeah.
These numbers are undeniable. Yes, we're in crisis, but that is going to be the challenge of our generation and the generation that comes after us. Are we going to be sane enough, responsible enough to look at this situation and say, you know, we're going to have to start seeing extremists as terrorists and deal with them as such?
Exactly. We could go on back when so now it's time to mess with our governor. He had the audacity to come on to say it's mental illness, but you took money away from mental illness to put it on the border. You took it away. And there's one guy who in Allen, Texas came on and said, it's not mental illness, it's the people shooting the guns. That's the part of it. And 45 signed that document saying mentally ill people can buy weapons.
Well, I mean, you're right. We talked about on the show, they're not just mentally ill people, people that have restraining orders against them.
Mm-hmm.
It was against their rights to have, firearms during that period of time where they're under a restraining order. This is a judge has signed off that this person is unsafe to somebody that they're either previously dating or in whatever. They're a threat to somebody, but they still have access to military grade weapons. So the lack of inaction, let's move out of the weeds and look at it. We see what the issue is. You can deflect it as much as you want to just mental illness. But I can tell you what, if you're mentally ill and you don't have a military grade weapon, you can't do mass shooting. It's just that simple. If you are proven to be sound of mind over time, you have access to firearms. I get it. But the moment, and we've got to understand, for those that want to be responsible, what mental illness is. For one of my colleagues and one of the life coaches said that he has a law enforcement person he works with, and if he's going through something or going through stress, he volunteers and gives his weapons over to a colleague. That's an option. Yeah. If you know that you're upset, if you know that you're unstable, or if you see somebody that's going through something, say, hey, man, do you think you need to have access to your firearms right now? That's an option. We have to learn how to self-police ourselves. I know that might sound ridiculous, but it's actually ridiculous that sounds ridiculous. If you can't police yourself, and there's so many tragedies that's happened with firearms and just people I know here of late that have had firearms that are not locked up or in a safe, or have the gun, at least have the gun locks on the trigger.
Yeah.
And having it around children, you're not fit to have a firearm. Flat out. If you don't secure the weapon, if you don't have the means to secure the weapon, then you don't need to have one. You're not fit. But then also, if you don't know when you're unstable and even understand mental illness, you're not fit. So we've got to go back to the drawing board. We've got these military grade weapons out here in the community, but people not having the maturity or the mental stability to have them. So that again begs the question, do we need to have these weapons on the countryside or being released in the countryside? Obviously not. And legislators are the ones that are going to have to change that law. That's where we're at with it.
Speaking about that, changing laws, there are some states grappling over changing the law to vote to 21. So I turned around, I looked up everything for each state. You're adult at 18. You get married at 18. You could join the armed forces at 18. You could vote at 18. You can do all that at 18, but yet drinking, they say you're not mature enough to drink at 18, but you have to be 21 to drink. Okay. I'm saying, so what is a legal adult? If a person go in the military, fight and die for this country, can't drink. If a person gets married at 18 and can't even have some champagne because it's illegal, you know, they got to come up with something. The point I'm getting at is Greg Abbott stated that if we change the gun laws to 21, it's unconstitutional. I brought up a point saying, well, it's also unconstitutional for you to say abortion is illegal. Lives are taken both ways.
Well, you know, we already know what the reason is for changing the age to 21. It's just gerrymandering. They're trying to control and limit the vote because the vote is starting to not go their way. The younger generation, they're not having it. See, they're not brainwashed enough by Fox News and other organizations yet. They see it for what it really is a lot of times. And the older and more jaded you get, sometimes the harder it is for folks to kind of see facts for the way they are, because they're listening to and hanging out with folks just to think like them. And that's why they need a little more time to get you brainwashed, essentially. And to see, because this new generation, they're seeing it. You got to understand, this new generation understands some things. They got some things way off in some ways, as most young folks do. But one thing they aren't able to do is you can't really tell them what they think. They're going to tell you what they think, and then they're going to act on it. See?
Yeah.
So and it's getting too obvious now. It's getting too obvious what the issues are, who the problems are, in government, and they're starting to they're scared of that vote. The other thing they're scared of is look at what Fox News and all these folks lined up at the border. They're scared of that. They're scared of that. Why are they so scared? This is America, right? This is, give us your poor, give us your disenfranchised, as long as they don't look like other folks. And it's just amazing to me, the hypocrisy. But that's another issue, right?
Yeah.
Why not give people an opportunity? Hey, why not give them an opportunity to work and bring some innovation? Most of the things we enjoy in terms of innovation and creativity in this country have come from immigrants. So what are we so scared of? They're scared of, and what the right wing is pushing is that they're feeling like they're being genetically replaced. I don't know about all that, but I do know that any society must evolve. We talked about this. It must evolve or it's going to die. That's any society. So America is evolving or de-evolving in some senses.
Yeah.
It's trying to go back to an earlier time, but guess what? That cat's out the bag. And it's not going back. Right? It's not going back. We still haven't dealt with a lot of the issues that are in the underbelly of this country. The racist folks, the folks that are based on, knowing that certain folks have not been treated right historically, and they're afraid of the retribution. If we want to call it what it is, they don't want to end up being treated like the black and brown folks of this country.
Yeah.
And that's what the underpinning, when they say make America great again, what they're saying is make it so that we have all the entitlements and we have all the advantages. And the system is skewed towards us succeeding and others being exploited. That's what they're actually saying. But we're smart enough and we have enough authority to fight back, and we're doing it. We're flipping states, flipping votes, and that's what they're scared of. Well, how about, I don't know, maybe you develop a better strategy and start seeing folks, communicating with folks that are different than you, just so that we can see that we're similar, and maybe make educational system better, make economic opportunities more equitable, so that our best and brightest can find that ladder.
Yep.
That's what we're trying to do, right? But I don't know. Maybe that's too utopic, and but I thought that's what democracy was.
Well, I'm looking at all these social programs they want to get rid of. All this stuff that's helping out the disadvantaged people, they want to get rid of. I read something a couple years ago when whites will start being a minority, and the same thing they voting to get rid of, they will need later on down the line. And I think they see that, and they sense we don't want to be there where everybody else, but the blacks minority is at. We want, like you said, want to stay entitled. But numbers not gonna lie down the years. I may not see it in my lifetime, but it's coming that they will be the majority. I mean, the minority, and they can't stomach that.
Well, regardless of what people can stomach or whatever, again, every society evolves or it dies. And that's just a reality. Now, yeah. I think what we're seeing is, in a large sense, society trying to fight change. Yeah. What they perceive as, either genetic replacement, whatever that means, because you got to think about it. We're all human. We're all human. So, you can't change evolution. That's just not going to happen, right? I mean, if you look at it from a scientific standpoint, organisms will always find a way to evolve.
Yeah,
it's just how it happens. That's just, if you have any type of scientific education, you understand that organisms will always find a way, to evolve. But politically and socioeconomically, we have to change some things. We have to change some things. It's not sustainable, because America is designed for a well-educated population. That's what we have to have. Part of the problem that we're having now is people don't know how to critically think. They don't know how to read. They want everything just given to them. They want Fox News to tell them what to think, what to do. They want ABC to tell them what to think, what to do. CNN to tell them what to think, what to do. Where is your own thought process and critical thinking skills? Where is your own? And then what happens from that, once you develop those things, you develop an instinct. And we can tell as soon as you open your mouth. And we've had this happen. I'm not going to call the person out, but they came in front of us and they were trying to hide maybe what their stance was or whatever. But as soon as they started talking, we knew exactly where they were going.
Yeah.
And we shut them down
quickly.
I don't know if this person is still running for office. And I'm not saying he probably shouldn't run. Everybody needs to run, but you better be able to speak. You better be able to tell about what your platform is. You better be able to explain what you plan on doing and what the issues are that are facing our country. And then it's supposed to resonate with people that are educated enough to understand what's going on with the country.
Yeah.
But if you're living based on fear, phobia, and greed, and not on what the people need, then you're going to allow this ignorant stuff to happen, and ignorant politicians that are able to manipulate you by telling you what you want to hear versus what needs to be done. And when those folks identify themselves as that type of person, they got to go. We really need to break the infrastructure of politics in this country right now.
Yeah.
We have to break it. You know, and I'm not saying go up like the terrorists in January 6th do it, break it. I'm talking about knowing that we're going to hold people to a moral compass regardless of where they stand, our soul is being examined in this country. I don't care where what your politics are individually. I'm not going to tell you what to think, but all I'm going to tell you to do is think. Read some books, develop some vision of where you want to go in this country. And as a whole, I'm hoping that as a whole, we want some of the same things for our people. I want everybody to have an equitable chance at the opportunities of our country. That's what most of the men on my Mount Rushmore back here wanted. Just an equitable opportunity, just for the ability to be respected and protected. That's what it's about. And if we're not doing that, we're failing. And I'm telling you today, we are failing our kids. We are failing our society. And if we're failing our kids, we're failing as a society. Forget the debt ceiling. What about the safety of our children? The safety to enjoy. What good is having money and you can't go nowhere to enjoy it?
Yeah.
What good is it? We can't afford, you can't afford to go to the store, and safety wise, you can't afford to go to the store because you don't know what dude's about to pop off thinking he's saving the country from the black and the brown folk taking over. Come on, man. Come on.
Are you, we got a little time for a question. Here's a question that came from Jessica out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She says she's teary-eyed with all the shootings that's going on, but she can't understand why the shooters are shooting people in the face when they can't be recognized. It's got to be some psyche for them doing that. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, if you think about it, we've been talking about some of the reasons why people do what they do, right? So we talk about greed, fear, and phobia. And I think on the last couple of episodes, we talked about fear and phobia unchecked turns into hatred. And when you shoot somebody in the face, that is an act of hatred. I don't even want to see you. I want to, that's an act of hatred, and that's an act of aggression. In my opinion, that's what I would look at it as, right?
Yeah.
And also, and I have to always say, I always look at things from two standpoints, from a spiritual standpoint, a psychological standpoint, and a spiritual standpoint. Why do you think Satan is so mad at us? Because we were made in what? God's image. So people that are manipulated through hatred and demonic forces, they don't want to see the face of someone. That demonic force doesn't want to see the face of God.
Yeah.
Perhaps, right? That's something that came from my spirit to say. But from a psychological standpoint, it's hatred. So what is the most heinous thing you can do when you hate something is to destroy its face, destroy its image. Look at the Egyptians. Look at the pyramids. What did they do to the Sphinx? They destroyed the nose so that you couldn't tell that those features were more Afrocentric, because they didn't want people knowing that we had that amount of technology back thousands of years ago. And we were that developed, that we weren't savages. We were highly civilized and highly capable of that level of engineering and construction. So it's not a new thing, and it's not a new demon. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Wow. Let me see what time we have. We're beginning crunch time, but we got one other thing we're going to do and say.
And I just want to say hi to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's where my dad is. So
yeah.
I can call him later on today. He left me a message. So okay. Shout out to Milwaukee and the Midwest as a whole.
So we have this book here.
Yes. I'm going to hold it up too. Shout out to my sister, Veronica Brooks.
Yeah.
Y'all got to get it.
We're going to give this book away. The first person who makes a comment on our screen right here on Facebook, or I add one thing else to it. If you call 210-461-8034, text me that you've seen. The key word is you have to put the impact hour in. You put the impact hour in, you get a copy of Veronica Brooks' book, The Warrior Within. So that
Excellent book. Excellent book. We're going to be talking about some things that book brings up later on and shows and on the YouTube channel that's coming. I know I've been talking about this YouTube channel, but it will be launched here, soon. So before we start transitioning over to Japan. So to all the listeners, some really cool and exciting things we're trying to get situated. Myself, my wife, Tiffany Lee, she's going to be laying out some things from from a health perspective, being an RN, and I'll be laying out some things further from a mental health perspective and linking it with the radio show and the comments and the things that you guys want to hear about and see on the radio show. Please, call in to Ron and we can get them on there. We've been talking about the most pressing issues, but there's a lot of other issues, a lot of mental health issues that are going on that we can address here and also on the YouTube channel. Also, we're going to be doing some things for kids that have behavioral issues. That's one of my areas of specialty. So tune in for that on the YouTube channel. I have a patented program called the GPS presentation, which stands for getting your priorities straight, but also lays out, trying to get kids from where they're at to where they're trying to go and laying that out so that they can watch out for the things and the threats that can keep them from reaching their goals and what they're trying to aspire to. So a lot of good things going on, coming through and working with the station. I always enjoy, this is kind of my therapy, man, to come in and, the stuff I have to deal with and even that I'm dealing with here in about an hour, I got to get to, we got to start talking. We got to understand where the real problems are. And, to these folks listening in DC, if you're a politician, you're listening, get off your butt, make a difference, stand up. It might even actually be a good thing for your career. You might have to go through something a little bit. Your constituents may be upset, but guess what? There's another generation coming that's going to have your back. I do believe. I've talked to some of these young folks that have survived and been around Uvalde, that's seen these active shooter situations, and they're coming. And if you're not careful, they might take your seat.
That's right. Also, I want to mention that WSAN Radio SA YouTube channel has every last one of Joseph's segments on there. So if you missed anything, just go to it. I finally updated everything last night. So everything is updated except for today. We'll get this edited and updated. So they could go to WSN Radio SA YouTube and not only see Joseph, all the interviews we had and everything. So it's going to be there for you. Also, we're going to post them on our website, WSNradio.com. We're going to post it on there. And those are things that we're going to, and that's what we're going to be doing because people got to be informed. By the way, talk about informed. Did you get a chance to look at Barbara Sizemore?
Have not yet. That's on my to-do list today. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to looking at Barbara.
Yeah, she turned 95 years old, I think, in January. She's in the Chicago area.
Outstanding, in the Chi-Town area. So
yeah,
shout out to one of my frat brothers up there, Kevin Scott, the great historian of the greatest fraternity in the world, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. So hopefully he will continue to be our historian. He does a lot of great work. So
yeah. So all right, Joseph, all right. Pretty good. I know you got to get out of here. You got things to do. We appreciate you coming on early in the morning.
Hey, too easy. I almost felt like I'm back in the military.
Yeah,
but hey, you know what we say, your action speaks louder than words. So let's start seeing some action out here and pushing folks to making the right choices, pushing these politicians. Look, if you don't say nothing, they might think they got to pass. We got to start saying something, doing something, write them, let them know that, hey, this is not going to work. You're going to have to put some commonsensical legislation out there so we can make some differences and just be aware, what's going on and start educating folks and having that conversation. So.
All right, my brother, you take care.
All right. See you later.
All right. Peace.
Peace.